Welcome to Iceland again. So this is just a short chat because we're going to do a live chat with Alda Sigmundsdottir, the writer of the Little Books of Iceland. She has written these several books about all kinds Icelandic. So Little Book of Tourists in Iceland, Little Book of Hidden People, Icelandic folk legends, the Little Book of Icelanders in the old days, and Little Book of Icelanders at Christmas, and finally a Little Book of Icelandic. But she has a couple of more. I'll post the link later on for you guys. But yeah, we're going to have a live chat about the fascination we Icelanders have with books and stories. And some theories why that is, and it's also a fun thing that we have here around Christmas time. We have this called Christmas book craziness. We'll talk a little bit about that, and yeah, I think it's going to be a fun talk about the Saga Nation of Iceland. And I just posted a couple of other events. And we're going to do a live drive around the Golden Circle in the end of March. It's going to be an interesting thing because usually phone battery will just maybe end 2 hours streaming, 2.5 hours. This is probably going to be close to 6 hours, like a live stream drive to do the whole Golden Circle. So it's going to be an interesting technical aspect. So probably with some intermissions. So and I'll probably have at least 2 phones to switch between and gimbals. But it's going to be fun, interesting. It's a challenge. Þetta reddast. We'll figure things out. It's going to be interesting to do the whole Golden Circle streaming. So yeah, it's going to be fun. And then I added also the chat with Anna, the caretaker of the Museum of Witchcraft and Sorcery. We're going to talk about Icelandic magical staves and the Icelandic magic. That's going to be fun also. And what have we planned more? Yeah, I'm planning a couple of things more that I'm waiting for confirmation. Something for all, hopefully. So what do we have here? Yeah. Yes, there were after I published the event about our visit to the Icelandic Museum of Sorcery and Witchcraft, there have been constant earthquakes here in Reykjavik. True story. The strongest one probably around 5.7 on Richter, but I'm talking about several. We're one a little bit shorter and at least probably 5 or 7 shorter small quakes. So maybe somebody is telling us something about the Museum of Sorcery and Witchcraft. Not sure, but it was quite we really felt it here in Reykjavik. There have been constant volcanic eruptions, earthquakes here to the west in the Reykjanes Peninsula, close to a small town called Grindavik, on the way to Keflavik Airport. And we thought that there was going to be a volcanic eruption there like half a year ago, something like that, but it hasn't happened yet. We're due a volcanic eruption, actually. So on average, there's a volcanic eruption every 4 or 5 years here in Iceland. And the last eruption was 2013. So now we're counting 8 years. So we're doing volcanic eruptions. We're waiting for something to happen somewhere. Of course, being with the 2 tectonic plates going through the center of Iceland, they are constantly rubbing together, so that that causes, of course, earthquakes and volcanic activity. So maybe at least this was a big one, a pretty big one, 5.7. We and my house shook very well, and it was just like I'm talking about like a couple of minutes after I published the event about the witchcraft in the museum. So it's fun. Yeah, maybe it's Loki. They say that there's a story about the Loki. How did it go? He's like caged up in a cave. It was a punishment by Odin, and Odin lets like drip some poison on him or something like that, and when he feels the poison, he kind of like withers, and that causes earthquakes. So maybe that's your cup of choice for truth. Good morning, Alexa. Good morning, Beverly and Roxanne and Dorinda and Ginny and Bobby, Patrick, Victoria, David. Yeah, it was, these earthquakes were quite, many. Usually it's just 1, 2, something like that. You don't feel the others, but this time, it was for 45 minutes, something like that. Some shaking going on. Of course, it's a little bit disturbing, as the big one was quite, you felt it. It was like 12 seconds of the earthquake. So, but fortunately, every house in Iceland is built to withstand a 8.5 scale Richter earthquake. We built our house to last here, so we are not too afraid that the houses are gonna break down and crash upon us. But of course, it has happened. But they are built to. They are strongly built. Hi, Pamela. So what should we read for you guys? I was thinking about maybe a little book of hidden people. That's from Alda. And I'll post, like I said earlier, I'll post a link to her books after this. And as I said, we are going to be live in about 3 hours, 2 p.m. GMT. So check that out. I think it's going to be a fun chat about the Icelandic Saga Nation and our book craziness. We are very fond of books. I just bought these here. I was in the Westman Islands, and I went to a library, and they were selling some old books, and they were such a good price, so I couldn't resist it. So these are Icelandic fairy tales. This is like a collection of Icelandic fairy tales. We had a couple of collectors for Icelandic folklore and ghost stories, stuff like that. It's very similar, like the Grimm's brothers in Germany. And the main author is called Jón Árnason, and or collector, not the author. And so this is a collection of his works, like elf stories, troll stories, ghost stories, stories about Icelandic monsters, and so forth and so on. So I didn't own this collection, so I picked it up. And here are some books which I could have researched on the internet, but I was just still interested if I find something interesting, some fun historic tidbits. This is about the French sailors that were here. There were a lot of countries that were sailing to Iceland to fish, especially when Iceland was a poor farming society. It was really strange that we didn't use all the fishing resources around us as a country. You would do some fishing when there was no farming to be done. The farming society had a stranglehold on Icelandic community, and but there were a lot of countries like Spain and France and Portugal and England, and they were fishing all around Iceland. And so this is a story about Frenchmen fishing around Iceland, and And yeah, interesting. And then I bought something that I've seen before. So this is like a some kind of photography slash history book that I found about Reykjavik. I'm always trying to see if I find something that I haven't seen before. And finally, this one. I've read it a couple of times, but I didn't own it. I just rented it like on the library. I picked it up for 100 krona, $1. So yeah, a little bit of a book craziness going on. Before I read this, I want to thank Michelle. Michelle sent me a jigsaw puzzle, because I posted a picture. We were doing a jigsaw puzzle before Christmas, and she sent me this, and this was just arriving like about a couple of days ago. And so this is her letter. So obviously she sent it just after Christmas, probably, or it says here, hello, Valur Heiðar Sævarsson. Thank you for the December 12th virtual tour of Reykjavik. I loved it. I've been to your country 4 times. I was heartbroken when I couldn't visit it this year. The tour made me laugh and brought up fond memories. Happy New Year, Michelle. So I'm really grateful for that, Michelle. Thank you for that. We're probably gonna put this on the sofa, on the living room table, and do some jigsaw puzzling soon. Yes, Bobby, $1. Yeah, they were selling like books for $1 at the library, and you can sometimes, these are like just flea market sales, or so it's fun to, if you have the nose or the craziness to go after old books like me. Yes, Alda is a fun writer. She has a unique view of Icelandic society, and she lived abroad for several years, and so she has like both, of course, the native and the visitor's eyes on some of our traditions and stories and stuff like that. So it's a fun thing to look at some things that me, for example, born and raised in Iceland, you sometimes get a little bit one view of things. You don't look at it from a different perspective, and she has a knack of doing that. And I recommend her website, aldasigmundsdottir.com. I think I have it here. Let's see. Yes, aldasigmunds.com, and recommend to check that out. And as I said, we're going to be live chatting in 3 hours, roughly 2 hours 45 minutes, 2 p.m. GMT. It's going to be interesting. So we're gonna talk about. I'm gonna tell you a story called "Two Christmas Eves." This is from her book, the little book of hidden people. There was a farm where all the residents went to mass on Christmas Eve, except one of the maidservants. When she had finished her work that evening, she sat down on her bed, lit a candle, and began to read a book. A short while later, two children came into the bathstova, or the living room, and started playing. After a while, they put their hands on the woman's lap. She took her candle, which were a very prized commodity at the time, broke it into 3 pieces, gave each child a piece, and kept one for herself. The children were very glad and ran off. So keep in mind, everybody had left from the farm to go to mass. Presently, a man in full dress entered the bathstova living room. He greeted the woman and set about trying to seduce her. She refused his advances, and so he left. Next, a woman came into the living room. She greeted the maidservant and thanked her for her kindness to her children. Then she produced a red cloth and told her that she wished to give it to her in return for her warmth towards them, and also because she had rejected the advances of the man who had approached her. Then she left. When the farm residents came home from the church, the mistress of the house saw the maidservant's red cloth and grew jealous. She tried to find out how it had come into her possession, but the maidservant refused to tell her. Time passed and the next Christmas arrived. The mistress of the house bid everyone go to church and remained at home by herself. When she had completed her domestic tasks, she sat down on her bed with a candle and began reading a book. Soon the same children as on the previous Christmas came into the bathstova and began playing on the floor. When they placed their hands on the woman's lap, she slapped them so hard that they ran off crying. Next, the man in full dress came in, greeted her kindly, and requested the same thing that he had from the maidservant. She thought that he must have been the one to give the maidservant the red cloth, and immediately complied with his wishes. He then left. Now the same woman as before came into the room and took the mistress' right hand, saying that because she had spanked her children and caressed her husband with it, it would never be as good as before. At that, the mistress of the house lost all strength in her right hand. So this is a cautionary tale. The moral of the story: do not covet others people's belongings, slap their kids, or sleep with their husbands. The end. It's many of the stories with elves and sometimes troll stories are cautionary tales. You should not covet something. You should fulfill your duties. You should be respectful. You shouldn't throw stones at or disturb nature. So it's a interesting story. So what are you saying, guys? Lisa, comments? Hi, Heather. Bye, Bobby. And Obstflut. And Catherine and Robin and Hendra. Yeah, welcome. Maybe I'll do more of these kind of short streams, read a couple of stories for you. Who knows how this will all end up. But I'm planning, like I told you earlier, I'm planning a couple of new events or live streams or experiences, checking out a couple of things that I'm looking forward to do. Like I told you earlier, we're going to do the Golden Circle, crazy live stream for 6 hours maybe. Live drive the whole Golden Circle in a stream, and we will see how that carries out. I'll do the test soon and drive and check the signal strength and how the battery life of my phone and how that all plays out. Buying a couple of things to make that better, hopefully, and it's going to be an interesting adventure. I like a challenge. So what should we read more? Icelandic folk legends. Let's see what we have here. Icelandic folk legends, tales of apparitions, outlaws, and things unseen. So we have some here. I know a couple. Búkolla. It's been a while since I read that one. Búkolla. There once were an old man and a woman who owned a small farm. They had one son, but they did not love him. No other people lived at the farm. The old couple owned one cow. That was the extent of their livestock. The cow was named Búkolla. Once the cow calved, and the old woman attended to her. When the cow had recovered, the old woman went back to the farmhouse. A short while later, the old woman returned to check on the cow, but found that it was gone. The old couple searched far and wide, but the cow could not be found. They were now in foul temper and ordered their son to go out and search for Bukolla, saying they did not want to see him again unless he had the cow with him. They gave him provisions and a new pair of shoes and sent him off into the blue yonder. The boy walked a long, long distance before sitting down to eat something. He then said, "Let me hear you moo, my Bukolla, if you're still alive." He then heard the cow moo somewhere far, far away. Again he walked a long, long distance, and again he sat down to eat, saying, "Let me hear you moo, my Bukolla, if you're still alive." He then heard Bukolla moo a little closer than before. Once more he walked a long, long distance until he came to some exceedingly tall cliffs. There he sat down to eat, saying, "Let me hear you moo, my Bukolla, if you're still alive." He then heard the cow moving beneath his feet. He clambered down the side of the cliffs and saw a very large cave. He entered and saw Bukolla tied beneath a sturdy wooden beam. He untied her immediately, led her out of the cave, and headed for home. When he had journeyed for a time, he turned to see a large ogre or troll coming after him, and a smaller one with her. He also observed that the large ogre had such a long stride that he would reach him before long. He then asked, "What do we do now, my Bukolla?" The cow said, "Take a hair from my tail and lay it on the ground." He complied. Bukolla then said to the hare, "I pronounce and declare that you shall turn into a mist so large that no one can cross it but the birds in the sky." At that very instant, the hare was transformed into a huge swath of mist. When the ogre reached the mist, she cried, "You will not succeed in this, boy. Run home, girl," she ordered the small ogre, "and fetch my father's large bull." The small ogre ran off and presently returned with a very large bull. In an instant, the bull had drunk up all the mist. The boy then saw that the ogre would reach him in the blink of an eye, for she had such a long stride. He asked, "What shall we do now, my Bukolla?" "Take a hair from my tail and lay it on the ground," the cow said. He complied. Then Bukolla said to the hare, "I pronounce and declare that you shall turn into such a large blazing fire that no one can cross it but the birds in the sky." In an instant, the hare was transformed into a huge fire. When the ogre arrived at the fire, she roared, "You will not succeed in this, boy." She turned to the small ogre, "Go and fetch my father's large bull, girl." The small ogre ran off and soon returned with the bull. It pissed out all the water that it had drunk with the mist and thus put out the fire. The boy then saw that the ogre would reach him in a heartbeat, for she had such a long stride. He asked, "What can we do now, my Bukolla?" The cow said, "Take a hair from my tail and lay it on the ground." He complied. Then Bukolla said to the hare, "I pronounce and declare that you shall turn into such a high mountain that no one can cross it but the birds in the sky." The hare was instantly transformed into such a tall mountain that the boy saw nothing but the blue sky above. When the ogre came to the mountain, she thundered, "You will not succeed in this, boy." To the small ogre, she growled, "Fetch my father's large drill, girl." The small ogre ran off, soon returning with the drill. The large ogre then drilled a hole into the mountain, and the moment she was able to see the other side, she became so eager to get through that she scrambled into the hole. But it was too tight. She became stuck and finally turned to stone inside the mountain. She remains there to this day. The boy, on the other hand, found his way home with his Bukolla, much to the delight of the old woman and woman. And they were happily ever after. Bukolla. So yeah, is anything lost? Ask Victoria. Is anything lost in translation between Icelandic and English in this story? About this story, no, I don't think so. Of course, there are some nuances. You know, Icelandic has some flavorful words, but I think it's a pretty good translation. So yeah, guys, do you have any questions for me? Will you join us for the 2 p.m. chat with Alda later on? Maybe. I'll tell you more about more events that I'm planning later on. As I said, I'll try to keep on doing this until COVID lifts. And I'm doing actually an online tour tonight with a company. It's going to be fun for me to go walking with a group of people with my phone and gimbal, and of course just telling them the walking tour is called Walk with the Viking. It's like a city walk, and so it's going to be fun. I'm actually developing a couple of these like online walks, which people can then book a private tour just with me and my phone, and or like this, like I will tell you stories and tell you about folklore and show you pictures, maybe videos. That's my plan for March, to launch a couple of these events where people can simply book private tours for their group or company, family, or whatever, and have some fun with me. So yeah, Alexa asks, we heard about the earthquakes this morning. What's your immediate reaction when you realize there's an earthquake? Well, I was just pretty relaxed here by the computer, and just I was just watching. I have a window here that faces east here, so I can. So I was just looking at the trees and see how they are doing. Pretty relaxed. As I said, all the houses in Iceland are built to withstand a 8.5 scale Richter earthquake. So I'm pretty, I don't go running underneath a door or something like that. I think you have to live in a pretty old house to be afraid about the or living maybe in a high rise or something like that. Maybe when they are shaking like that, maybe. But I'm a pretty relaxed, But it was a pretty big one, 5.7. I think that was the latest news about the earthquake. Yeah, like I've told, I'm saying the same thing again. The earthquake happened really immediately after I launched the event about the museum, a visit to the Museum of Sorcery and Witchcraft. So I think it's correct, and connected to that. I think the heavens were protesting that I would dabble with black magic or white magic or magic overall. Hi Ilsa, off to bed. Yeah, you'll catch me in the morning when you wake up. I think it's in Australia it's late, I think. Sharon, they loved their son after he brought back Búkolla, of course. The old couple, they loved their son because he finally had proved his worth. If I remember it correctly, that was the Icelandic version. They approved his worthiness after that ordeal with Búkolla, the magical cow. Do you have something? I think there's some kind of stories. I'm not sure if it's in Grimm's or something else pretty similar like this story. Any ideas from you guys? Have you heard this before, like in a English version? No. So guys, I want to thank Michelle again for her jigsaw puzzle. Thank you, Michelle. Gonna have fun with that. And I'll see you in 2.5 hours at 2 p.m. with writer Alda Sigmundsdottir, talking about the Saga Nation. See you then.